is Chris Schmelzer, and I've been partnering with Blythe and a few other folks in this room to get this movement spearheaded here in West Michigan. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the center of this, which is some trends for the future of work. And I want to talk about, at a high level, two kind of macroeconomic effects that are happening, right, around kind of accelerating technologies and just the shift of what it means to be a business. And then the third piece I'll talk about are what are some of the trends that you guys are all probably feeling in your organization or reading about or will probably feel in the next couple of years. But before I do that, I just want to tell you guys a quick story. So there was a wise sage in India who would travel village to village a long time ago. And in one village he came across a king, and the king said, "I'd love to challenge you to a game of chess." And the wise sage said, "Sure, I'll take you on." And the king said, "If you can beat me, anything you want is yours." And the wise sage said, "Sounds like a deal." So they played chess, and the wise sage won. And the king said to him, "Well, what is it that you want? You can have anything." And the sage said, "I want enough rice to feed my family forever." And the king said, "Well, quantify that for me." And the sage said, "Okay, see this chessboard? Take 1 grain of rice and put it on the first square. And then on the next square, double that and put 2 pieces of rice. And on the third square, double that to 4. And the next square, 8, and so on and so on." And the king said, "Not a problem." He said, "Let me get my men, they'll bring the rice, and we'll do that." So the men went, grabbed the rice, and they started to, put the grains of rice on the chessboard like the sage had asked for. And so he got to 8, 16, 32, 64. And this went on and on and on and on and on and on. But as the king's men got to the second half of the chessboard, they realized that they were actually running out of rice, and that the village didn't actually have enough rice to give to the sage. And so the moral of this story is there's a lot of power in exponential growth. And at first, it seems like not much is really happening. But as you get to the second half of that chessboard, in the example like the sage, those leaps and those bounds which happen at very, very quick paces, right? So if I would have went all the way through 64 to the 64 squares on the chessboard, I don't know if you can read that number in the back, but it's a very big number. And can anybody even take a guess how you pronounce that? What is that? That is in the quintillions. So I've never even knew that we could get that high. So I just encourage you to think of that story, right, as we think of the future of work. And so exponential growth curves, right? So Moore's law. So Gordon Moore was a technologist in the 1950s and 60s, and he noticed that the number of transistors on a microchip were doubling every year. All right? And what this means is every 2 years, the power of our computing devices is doubling. And so the price of those is also decreasing, right? And this has been going on since the 1950s and the 1960s, which is why, all of us have this device in our pockets, which is similar to a supercomputer in the 1980s, in much less space, and in much fraction of the price. So this is just a generic graph that shows, right, this exponential growth in technology. And I know you guys can't make it out because this isn't the best projection screen, but you have a car down here, right, in the early 1900s, and kind of present day, we're already at autonomous vehicles, right? And as that curve goes, we're just going to continue to see accelerating growth in technology. So that's one thing that is going to really change how we work, right? So those are one big macro effect for the future of work. The next one is this shift in perspective. So there's been this traditional view that, right, there's one and only one social responsibility of business, and it's to use its resources to increase profits. And that was, I believe, Milton Friedman, who was an economist. But we're starting to see a bit of an emerging view in what it actually means to be in business. And this emerging view says that driven by technological, social, and political factors, success now requires broad, systematic thinking about all the players the organization affects: employees, customers, society, the environment, fairness, inequality, and purpose. Right? So accelerating technology, this kind of emerging view on what it actually means to be an organization, is really shaping what the future of work is. So then this next slide, I'm just going to walk through 8 trends that I think are pretty prevalent in the research right now of what we're all starting to feel in the workplace. I'm sure some of you are feeling this in your workplaces or reading about it. And I think the whole idea of Hacking HR is to bring a community of folks together to have an open and honest dialogue about this, around what we're learning in our organizations, what we're hearing in other organizations, what's working, what isn't. So the first one, this whole idea around trust, responsibility, credibility, honesty, and transparency, right? Your brand is everything anymore, right? And your employees have to, it's got to be credible with your employees, it's got to be credible with your customers. And so a couple examples of companies I put up there. So Tom's, the shoe company, right? Every pair of shoes they sell, they send one to Africa, or Warby Parker, the glasses company, right? Every pair of glasses they sell, they send one to they send a pair of glasses to an emerging economy. The next one is this idea for the search for meaning, right? As I think some of the folks are going to talk tonight about Gen Z and millennials, right? And I'm sure all of us feel this is our search for meaning in the workplace, what we do needs to matter. And I had the privilege of hearing Mary Barra speak this summer, the CEO of GM, and she said something that just struck me so interestingly. She said GM is in the business of three things: saving lives, saving the planet, and saving our most precious resource, our time, right? And so GM's kind of newish tagline is this whole idea around zero crashes, zero emissions, zero congestion. Very different than Chevy runs deep or like a rock. Big systematic thinking, right? We live in multi-environment complexity now. So any decision you make, right, inside your organization, whether it be to adopt a new technology, to onboard a new supplier, has impacts all up and down your value chain, right? So thinking from the lens of systematically, if I make this decision, what are the impacts across the value chain that this is going to make? New partnerships between people and machines. So by show of hands, has anybody been to an Amazon fulfillment center or at least seen one on TV? Right? And so it's not people driving forklifts going over, picking out the product. It's right, the shelves are actually robots, and they're moving around, coming to the people are then plucking the product and putting it in the box. So this new relationship between people and machines. Next is from hierarchies to networks. So I think we're all used to seeing the traditional organizational hierarchy chart, right? But we're moving more to teams of teams within organization to accomplish projects. Even more so, the idea of the gig mindset, right? If it's outside of your core competency as a company, are you outsourcing it to consultants, freelancers, gig workers? The evolving employer-employee relationship. So I recently saw a headline the other day that said in California, Uber is experimenting with drivers setting their own rates. Now think about that for a minute, right? I'm an Uber driver. I've done over 20,000 rides, and I have a 4.9 star rating. Does that then say that I can charge a higher rate because I'm offering a premium service? So then just take that same model and now think about the really, really high performers in your organization. Right? So this employee-employer relationship is changing and is going to continue to change. That leads into the next one, compensation beyond pay. Right? People aren't just expecting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Right? They want flexible work arrangements, work from home, work from the coffee shop, non-traditional benefits, so time off when I have a child or insurance for my pet. And then another one that's kind of on the edge that's coming is multimodal compensation. Right? This whole idea of maybe I'm not just being paid in US dollars. Maybe I'm also being paid in Bitcoin or Lira, which is the Facebook digital currency that'll be released this year. And then lastly, and probably most importantly out of all these, diversity, inclusion, and fairness. Right? Organizations, it's not only imperative, but it's almost a competitive advantage to cultivate a culture within your organization that creates a sense of belonging, right? A sense of value of your employees, where open and safe dialogue can be had. So these trends, I think, we're all probably feeling in our organizations in our day-to-day work, and will continue to. And so, we hope to bring this community together throughout the year and the years beyond to continue to talk about these things and, hopefully shape them for West Michigan.